There's a crow in your neighborhood right now. Maybe you've seen it. Black as charcoal, watching from a telephone wire. Watching the mailbox. Watching the driveway. Watching you. You probably didn't think much of it. A bird. Just a bird. But here's what you don't know. That crow has a file on you. Not in any way that sounds dramatic or strange, but in the most literal biological sense. Somewhere inside that small glossy skull is a detailed memory. Your face, your voice, your patterns. Whether you feed it, whether you've ever threatened it, whether you can be trusted, and that memory. It doesn't fade. Most people think of birds as beautiful, mindless things. You put seed in a feeder. They come, they eat, they leave. No relationship, no recognition, just habit and hunger. We've always assumed the gap between us, between human and bird, and was vast, almost infinite. But the truth is stranger and far more unsettling than that. Crows don't just recognize human faces. They catalog them. They discuss them. They pass that information, who is safe, who is dangerous, to their children. And those children remember, even if they've never seen you before. A 2008 study out of the University of Washington changed how scientists think about animal cognition forever. Researcher John Marsluff and his team wore rubber caveman masks while trapping crows on campus. They tagged the birds and released them. The masks were then locked away. Years later, those same crows would scold and dive bomb anyone wearing those specific masks. Even crows that had never been trapped, offspring hatched after the study ended, reacted with the same alarm. They had inherited a memory, a social memory, of a face. We go into the hidden world happening right outside your window. The science, the stories, and the strange intelligence of the animals most of us walk past without a second thought. To understand why crows remember faces, you have to understand something about the brain they're carrying. Crows belong to the family Corvidae. Ravens, jays, magpies, and all relatives. And for decades they were dismissed in neuroscience. The phrase bird brain wasn't just an insult. It was scientific shorthand for simple, small brain, few neurons, basic behavior. But in 2005, an international group of neuroscientists publishing in Nature Reviews Neuroscience formally proposed renaming an entire region of the avian brain. The old name, the hyperstriatum, suggested a primitive structure. The new name they proposed, the nidipallium, a region that in corvids functions remarkably like the mammalian prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain behind your forehead right now. The part you're using to watch this video, to remember what you had for lunch, to wonder what your neighbor thinks of you. Crows have an analog to that structure. And here's where it gets remarkable. The crow brain, relative to body size, is proportionally comparable to that of chimpanzees. Per gram of body mass, they carry cognitive hardware that rivals our closest evolutionary relatives. But raw brain size only tells you so much. What matters is what crows do with it. The University of Washington research team, led by Dr. Marsluff, ran their face recognition study not once, but across multiple years, multiple campuses, and multiple cities: Seattle, Stillwater, Oklahoma, Davis, California. Every time the same result. Crows remember threatening faces. They alert others. They teach. One crow recognized and scolded a particular mask for over 5 years, despite only being trapped once for approximately 15 minutes. Years earlier, one 15-minute experience, 5 years of memory. Think about that the next time you shoo one off your porch. Here's what the University of Washington study couldn't fully explain at first. How are crows transmitting this information? Not every crow in Seattle was trapped. Not every crow in that flock had ever seen the mask. Yet they all responded. This is where the science moves from impressive to genuinely extraordinary. Crows engage in something researchers call mobbing behavior, a coordinated, noisy harassment of a perceived threat. When a crow identifies a dangerous individual, it calls, specific calls, and other crows fly in. But those crows aren't just showing up to be social. They're watching. They're learning. The target of the mobbing, the face being scolded, is being encoded into their memory simply by being present. Social learning, in real time, from a bird. The Max Planck Institute for Ornithology in Germany has spent years studying how information moves through corvid groups. What they've found suggests something closer to a communication network than simple animal signaling. Crows have distinct alarm calls for different predators, different calls for aerial threats versus ground threats, different calls that encode whether a threat is moving or stationary. Some researchers believe certain calls even contain directional information, where the danger is. This isn't instinct. Instinct is a fixed response to a stimulus. This is flexible, context-dependent communication. It is, in the most careful scientific language, culture. Cornell Lab of Ornithology defines animal culture as the transmission of behaviors across generations through social learning rather than genetics. By that definition, crows have culture, and your face may already be part of it. Now let's talk about something the scientific papers don't usually mention. Something that happened to a woman in Seattle named Gabby Mann. Gabby was 7 years old when she started feeding crows near her family's home. Breadcrumbs at first, then peanuts, then whatever she happened to be carrying. Within months, the crows began leaving her gifts: a small piece of broken glass, a blue button, a rusted screw, a tiny pearl-colored heart bead, a piece of foam with the word best written on it cut from a larger sign. These weren't accidents of wind or proximity. The gifts appeared, consistently, after Gabby filled the feeder. They were left in the tray, objects the crows had found, carried, and placed. Researchers debate the mechanism, whether this is intentional gifting or associative behavior, the crow arriving with something in its beak, dropping it while eating, the human finding it. The intention is genuinely hard to know, but here's what isn't debated. Crows are capable of reciprocity. Studies at the University of Vienna showed that crows return favors. If you help a crow, provide food, remove a threat, crows are statistically more likely to assist you in return, even when there's no immediate benefit to themselves. That's not instinct. That is a moral logic. A simple one, but logic. And what strikes me most about Gabby's story isn't the gifts themselves. It's what they suggest about the inner life of an animal most of us have never thought to look at twice. Something in the crow saw the child and decided, this one is different. This one gives. Here's what I find myself thinking about. We spend a lot of time wondering whether we're seen. Truly seen, not just noticed, but known. Remembered for who we are and how we've acted, not just what we look like. We hope that the good we do echoes, that the kindness we extend to the people around us and to neighbors, to strangers, to the world just outside our front door, actually registers somewhere, actually matters. And then there's the crow. An animal with a walnut-sized brain and no language we can hear, no social contract we've written, no church or court or school. And it has built in the wild, in the trees above your driveway, a system for exactly that. It sees you. It remembers what you did. It tells others. The ancient Romans kept crows as omens. The Norse saw ravens, close cousins, as the eyes of Odin. Indigenous cultures across North America placed the crow at the center of creation stories. Not because crows were mysterious or unknowable, but perhaps because on some level people sensed it, felt the weight of that black gaze and recognized something. Something is watching. Something is keeping track. Modern science now tells us that feeling wasn't superstition, it was observation. Good observation. The kind that takes centuries of living closely with the natural world to accumulate. The crow outside your window has a memory longer than you might imagine. It has social bonds. It has something resembling grief. Research from animal behavior journals has documented crows gathering around their dead, seemingly processing the loss before dispersing. It has play. Young crows have been filmed snowboarding down roof slopes, climbing back up and doing it again. It has, in some form we don't yet have the full vocabulary to describe, a life. Go back to that first image. There's a crow in your neighborhood right now, watching from a telephone wire, watching the mailbox, watching the driveway. Now you know what it's doing. It's reading you, deciding where you fall in its mental map of the world. Safe, neutral, threat, worthy of attention, worthy of trust. And here's something you can do with that knowledge. Something small and almost embarrassingly simple. Start feeding them. Consistently. Peanuts if you have them. Dry dog food. Unsalted scraps. Do it at the same time each day. In the same spot. Within 2 to 3 weeks, and according to researchers who've replicated this across dozens of trials, the crows in your area will recognize you, not as a human walking by, as you. Specifically, they will begin to watch for your arrival. They may follow your car to the end of the block. Some people report that crows have escorted them on morning walks through their neighborhood, moving tree to tree overhead. And if you're lucky, if you're patient, if you're consistent, if you're kind, you may one day find something small and strange in the feeder. A button, a foil wrapper folded into a shape, a fragment of something bright and worthless and perfect. A gift from an animal that, for millions of years before we came along, was already doing what we spend our whole lives trying to do. Paying attention, keeping score, remembering who showed up. If this made you think differently about the birds outside your window, drop a comment below. Tell me, have you ever had a crow remember you? A moment with a bird that felt like something more? I read every single one, and if you want to go deeper into the hidden lives of backyard animals, the science, the stories, the things happening 10 feet from your back door that most people never notice, subscribe. There's so much happening out there. You just have to look.